Hey, everybody. Good morning. Good afternoon. Hope you're doing well. I thought I would just make a quick video and go over this genetics worksheet because I think there might be some confusion about what we're supposed to do here. So I'm going to do a couple examples of what they're asking for, and hopefully that will help. Okay, so let's start with number one here, which is basically saying number one says for each genotype, indicate whether it is a homozygous or heterozygous genotype. What does that mean? Well, a homozygous genotype means there's two of the same alleles, either two dominant alleles or two recessive alleles. Either one of those would be considered homozygous. That's what that means. And heterozygous means there's a dominant and a recessive allele together. So let's take capital T, for example. What would that be? Well, they're both dominant examples, so let's call that homozygous, right? You'd fill that in there. And let's take the next one. The next one says capital B, lowercase b, so that's a dominant and a recessive allele, so that would be heterozygous, right? And that's what that first one's all about, okay? That's question number one. Question number two says determine the phenotype for each genotype. Okay, what's the phenotype? Phenotype means the trait. What is the trait? Okay, the trait variety. Is it blue eyes? Is it brown eyes? In this case, it's saying, is it going to be yellow hair or is it going to be blue hair? Okay, so it says determine the phenotype for each genotype using the information provided about the Simpson family. And write the phenotype in the space provided. So for this first one, they're asking, write the hair color, right? And so it says yellow hair color is dominant to blue hair color. So here's a dominant and a dominant allele, which means they've inherited a dominant allele from mom, a dominant gene from mom, and a dominant gene from dad. So that's going to be yellow hair. Oops, I spelled it wrong. Yellow hair, okay. How about this next one? Capital Y, lowercase y. Well, I'm not going to do them all for you, but this is a dominant allele, right, with a recessive allele. Remember, alleles are just versions of the different versions of the same gene. So what's the hair color going to be here? Well, the dominant gene is going to mask the recessive gene, so this would be yellow, right? How about two recessive versions of the gene? Well, there's nothing to mask those genes, right? There's no capital Y to mask it. So this would result in blue hair. Okay, and I'll let you do the one for baldness. Okay, now number three, let's talk about that. It says for each phenotype, okay, which means for each trait variation, give the genotypes that are possible for Professor Frink, Ralph Wiggum, Sideshow Bob, and Nelson Muntz. Okay, so here's what we know. A tall head is dominant to a round head. Okay, so the combinations of T that are possible here, I'm just going to write them over here. Can I do that? It's going to be TT, it's capital T, it's going to be capital T, lowercase t, or it's going to be little t, right? Those are your choices. So which of these three genotypes code for a tall head? Well, how do you figure that out? A tall head is dominant to a round head, so the ones that contain a dominant allele, a dominant version of that gene, will code for a round head, whereas the one that codes for the genotype that does not contain a dominant allele will code for the recessive trait, which in this case is a round head. Okay, and you do the same thing for brown hair and red hair, so give that a try. Okay, let's check out number four. This is where it starts to get a little tricky, but the way that I like to start all these is say, okay, what are my genotypes? What are my possible allele combinations? There's going to be a capital and a capital and a lowercase, and a lowercase and a lowercase, and what do those code for? Okay, so let's read through here. It's Milhouse and Elisa. Milhouse is homozygous for nearsightedness, so that means he's going to have, homozygous means he's going to have two of the same alleles. It's either going to be two dominant or two recessive, but That's something we know now. And it says Lisa can see fine without glasses. Okay, so nearsightedness is a trait that requires glasses. And it says nearsightedness is a dominant trait. Okay, so you know that the allele that causes nearsightedness is a capital letter. It's a dominant gene. Complete a Punnett square if you for this situation. So here's what I would do first if I were doing this. I would say, okay, capital T equals nearsighted, right? And that's information I pulled from there. I would say actually, you know what I would do is say capital T, and capital T lowercase t equal nearsighted. And then I would say little t equals normal vision. Okay, that's how I would start this. And then I would say, okay, well, what do we know? We know that Milhouse is what? Well, Milhouse is homozygous for nearsightedness. So it means he's going to be one of these two versions up top here, right? He's going to be big T, or big T, little t, because he's nearsighted. Well, he's homozygous, so we know Milhouse is going to be, let's see if I can do this. Big T, oops. Milhouse is going to be big T. Okay, and how about Lisa? Lisa is going to be, let's see, what do we know about Lisa? Lisa can see fine without glasses, so that means she's normal vision. So she's little t. Okay, so now we know the genotypes of Milhouse and Lisa. So now what we do is say, okay, well, let's complete the Punnett square. Milhouse might pass on a big T or a big T. He only passes on one of them. Okay, that's how this works. You have two versions, but you only pass on one of them to offspring, and your partner passes on one, and then your offspring have two versions, and that's how that works. Lisa might pass on a little t, and she might pass on a little t. Okay, well, now we say, okay, what are the possible combinations? Well, in this square, it would be big T, little t. In this square, it would be big T, little t. In this square, it would be big T, little t. And in this square, big T, little t. Right? So remember, each of these squares represents a 25% chance that the offspring will inherit that genotype. Which means, in this case, okay, well, let's go through A, B, and C. So A says, list the possible genotypes and phenotypes for the children. Okay, genotypes, those are the combination of genes or of alleles. So there's only one combination, and it's big T, little t, right? What are the possible phenotypes? And you know, we got that information right here. The possible phenotypes are, well, they're nearsighted, right? Nearsighted. Okay, because there's no other choice, because all of the offspring are going to be big T, little t. Okay, so now it says, what are the chances of the couple having a child who will need glasses? Well, if you're nearsighted, you need glasses. So how many out of 4 boxes indicate that the child will need glasses? Well, all 4 out of 4 boxes indicate that, which means there's a 100% chance that the children of Lisa and Milhouse will need glasses. Okay. Then it says, what are the chances? This is C now. What are the chances of the couple having a child with normal vision? Well, this is again out of 4 chances. How many chances? How many boxes out of 4 provide the possibility that the child might have normal vision? Well, none of them, right? Because there's no little t, and that's the genotype that codes for normal vision. So there's a 0% chance that the children of Lisa and Milhouse will have normal vision. Okay. I'm going to leave it there, and I'm going to hope that's good. Send me notes, and we can arrange for a video chat if you want to talk about it. See you later.